My name is Niecea and I am an ETA this year at the Landesgrund Veterinary and Agriculture School. I'm from the University of Nevada, Reno, and I was teaching for 1 year prior to this in Thailand at an American international school for middle schoolers. The topic that I wanted to talk about today is the differences between high schools and teaching in high schools in the United States versus teaching high schools here in the Czech Republic. And I think one of the ways that I would best sort of sum up the overall feeling is that high schools in the Czech Republic feel a little bit more like community colleges to me, in the sense that students can take on a lot of responsibility and pursue really specific career goals. And so your role as an educator sort of changes with this different role and the different goals that the students are seeking out. And so I would teach at a technical school with the veterinary and agriculture students, and their career goals were really focused, and the reason that they needed to learn English was really specific for their state exams. And my role was less of an exploratory one as so much as helping them meet these standards for these kids who had a very specific idea in mind for what they wanted to do. And I think this can change depending on which schools you teach at. I think the gymnasiums can be a little bit more flexible, and what you do in your community projects and your community engagements can be more flexible. But I would say I was actually really impressed with how professional the students could be and the responsibility that they were asked to take on. A lot of my students worked long hours in the cowshed, milking cows, and they had a lot of homework in their veterinary classes. But they didn't have a lot of homework in the ancillary classes of history and geography and English so much. It was a means to an end, and some of them were really passionate about it, but it's not the exact same as how we treat subjects in the United States, I would say. I think that the standards of teaching in the United States versus in the Czech Republic for teachers can be different depending on the subject. I think in terms of planning, there's a little bit more flexibility. Maybe you have to plan a little bit less, only because you're not required to document the learning in such an in-depth way. You are meant to keep track of the themes and the ideas you talk about, but especially for the curriculum that's not specifically for the state requirements in the Czech Republic, there is a little bit of leeway and creative design too for electives like psychology is offered at my school. But overall, I would say the role of the educators in the Czech Republic is more to give information and have the students give it back to you in some way. Some of the teachers here are really interested in seeing how students can use this information in different formats, presentations and videos. But sometimes you get the really traditional teaching style where it's just a test and the students need to regurgitate the information. And I would say in the United States, we're trying to do a little bit more project-based learning and hands-on learning. But again, I think that varies by the school, the individual teacher, and the requirements. Yeah, the deal with substitute teachers is interesting. At my school, if we don't have there's no substitute, so if a teacher needs to take a personal day or a sick day, sometimes that class is just canceled, which the students don't mind. Sometimes the classes are combined into complementary sections, or sometimes teachers have to help their coworkers take on the extra load and the extra work, depending on how many hours the teachers missed and where the class is particularly. And so in your day, it can be a little bit crazy. I filled in for a few teachers. They always asked me if I was okay with it, and if I wasn't, then they would find another way to take care of it. But sometimes you do have to deal with, because of the lack of planning, maybe the lesson plan might be just, we're doing chapter 6. And so you have to open up the book and figure out what that means within 10 minutes sometimes of the class beginning, because the notifications are a little delayed too in the school sometimes. On the first day when I came to the Czech Republic, I was a little surprised at how actually shy the students were. That people will give you a heads up and they say, oh, your students are going to be a little nervous, a little shy, they won't understand you. But I think that the back and forth communication between the teacher who's supposed to be giving information and the students who are supposed to be taking it down doesn't always create a dialogue. And so it is sometimes that the students are shy, but they're also not familiar maybe with that format of asking and answering questions and being contributors to the overall dialogue in the classroom. And so it was really a long time before I could coax responses and a relaxed atmosphere in the classroom. It takes a lot of relationship building and a lot of planning, but it was really successful towards the end. But I would say I was actually really shocked. The students were a little bit more shy and reserved. For example, if a teacher asks a student for an answer on the homework that they did, the student can just decline to answer. They can say no thank you, and the teacher will go, okay. Whereas in America, you go, that's not quite an option, I need an answer, and I asked you. So it was a lot of negotiating what it means to be a teacher in that environment and what the students are used to, and building that new relationship as well as respecting the cultural atmosphere that's already in place. The discipline can be interesting. If my students refuse to do something in the classroom, there is no specific chain, at least at the school I'm at, where you ask them to go in the hallway or meet with the principal. There isn't that code of conduct that you follow. The discipline here is if the classroom teacher that each grade has hears that there's been a few issues in the school, they'll speak with them, and then they have a written notice. But if you ever get to that point, it's expulsion. And so there isn't detention, and there isn't a lot of teacher to student mediation of problems in the same way as in the United States.